Group Captain, I wanted to ask you one thing. The hands of the diplomats and all those who are going to be negotiating this must be full, because account has to be taken, no doubt, of the feelings and attitudes of the majority of citizens of Niger. And if one is reading it right, on the internet at least, they seem, when people hear about a popular coup, this seems to be one of those, going by the comments that are coming out of Niger, comments of the ordinary people. Does this make it more complicated to resolve?
Unfortunately, the answer is yes. Now, if we look when the coup was announced on 26th of July, feelers we had was that even within the military, there was no unanimity that all the Niger armed forces were behind that coup. It was a coup organized by a unit which is that is working with the Presidential Guard. However, you see, if it had remained like that, looking at what happens in other countries, that would have been an advantage for any would-be intervention because there's no unanimity. But for good or bad, we later came to know that the Niger armed forces, all of them have aligned behind the coup. There's no any faction, all of them are one. For the general population in Niger, I want to believe this is a coup between, there are people who support democracy. Even like in any democracy, there are members of opposition, there are supporters of the ruling party. Of course, the supporters of the opposition, at least, I don't know their percentage, they were supporting the coup, while those of the ruling party, which Mohamed Bazoum, were against the coup. So in essence, what I'm saying, at the beginning, I want to believe the Niger society is maybe divided into two, those for or those against. But the coup plotters, I think they were very, they used their head. They decided what is the element that will bring the Niger population to support all of them. Unfortunately, again for ECOWAS, this coup, it's a continuation of what we are seeing across the Francophone region. That is the emergence of either new generation of politicians or new generation of military officers who, in their own opinion, that the relationship between these countries and France has been a very parasitic relationship for many years, despite the fact that they have gotten independence. So that idea, when you go, I travel in a lot of Francophone countries, you hear that debate even before the Niger coup. So these people realize that the best way they could, get the approval from the Niger people, even those that were not initially enthusiastic about the coup, is to show them that, look, this coup we're doing to break French hegemony. We're doing it for you. France that is taking your resources and not paying you appropriate amount of money. So what we saw happening, it was an evolution. We saw more and more people. First, Niger is a country, honest, that they are used to seeing coup. Coup is very, it's natural with them. So initially people, it's like, it is one of those things, they are not concerned. Then there are those that are against it. Then there are those that are for it. But the junta started getting people by bringing this idea that this coup is anti-colonial coup. We are doing it for you. So we started seeing, demonstrations, which is getting bigger and bigger. Unfortunately, for ECOWAS or anybody intervening, it is easier for you, or even more support for you to intervene when there are factions for or against the coup, especially in the military and also within the general populace. So the more we have people aligning with the coup plotters, again, the more, that is an incentive for them to dig in more. That also makes the work of any intervening force or any organization, to be more, the task becomes more difficult. Because how do you intervene? With due respect, I like giving the example. Somebody asked me, I say it's like a wife whose husband is a wife beater. If she loves him so much, it will be difficult for the father-in-law or the father of that girl or the mother-in-law to separate or anybody. So this is going to make it very, very difficult. The more these people, and I think they are using that psychological warfare, they are getting more and more people around. Well, the general populace, they are very easy to, to manipulate or whatever, for whatever reason. And I think, with due respect, for now, the coup plotters are entering into the hearts and minds of the Niger people, and that is going to make because if you look at what are the motivations for all these kind of interventions, in places where interventions have worked and worked quickly, we see two things. Either the government is killing the people, the government that took over power, or there are human rights abuses. So sometimes when you see the intervention is this, but in a situation like this, what we saw, or there's a general condemnation of the coup. Like we saw, it's not a coup. What we saw in Gambia. Yahya Jammeh lost an election, he didn't want to go. But you can see in the whole of the country, we can say almost 80 or 90% of the people wanted him to be out. So it was easy for ECOWAS to intervene with the support of Nigeria and other countries like Senegal and Ghana to push him out because he's not popular. But these people, as we are seeing, some people say it is staged within Niamey capital, that Niamey is the center of opposition. I've heard that from some people in Niger that I called, whereas some say outside Niger, there are people who are pro-democracy. But what we are seeing, from what we see with the videos that are assailing us here in Nigeria and Student Union today, Workers Union today, some people saying that you have to step on us before you get to the army. What we are seeing, what cannot be denied, is from the time they did that coup to now, the junta, they have gotten more and more supporters, or they have convinced. The uncommitted, more of the uncommitted are coming to their side. While I consider that against the coup, like members of the ruling party, supporters, maybe they are still there. But more and more the undecided, they are coming on the side of the distance. Again, I have to say, every country has its particularity. The Niger that I know, once you bring something of national interest, once you bring something that, look, they want to play on our sovereignty, with due respect, unlike other countries, almost all Niger population will merge. And I think that is what the junta is, that is the message that they are saying. Again, it makes it difficult for ECOWAS, because if the people accept that this coup is to rid the country of colonial vestiges, it means any intervention is also seen conversely as support for colonial rule in Niger. Very difficult.
That is a warped interpretation that can indeed be taken. Now, what do you make, Group Captain, of the American Secretary of State saying that Wagner, said very recently that Wagner was taking advantage of instability in Niger. And there's a report that says that the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State, Nuland, has held what she has described as difficult and frank talks with the coup leaders, whom she said understood the risks of working with the mercenaries. What do you make of that?
Well, I am happy sometimes Americans, they don't hide their intentions. Just like you quoted now, I'm just taking what you quoted. You see the lady, the American expert, she is telling you what is the most important thing for America regarding this Niger coup. The most important thing for America is Russian influence supplanting American interest in the Northeast. I am happy she didn't put forward the issue of we want to defend democracy, or we like President Bazoum, or we like Niger. What I am trying to say here in the realist school of thought of international relations is that every country looks after its interest. What do I mean? When you go to the United Nations, it's a collection of countries. When you go to African Union, it's a collection of countries. If you come to ECOWAS, it's a collection of countries. But whenever an issue comes, apart from the general position of the group, whether as UN, whether as AU, whether as ECOWAS, each country will examine what is in it for me. What do I stand to gain? What do I stand to lose? The person that is ousted, what is my relationship with him? There will be the region's official position, but then each country will look. The point I am making, when I have studied interventions of this kind, during the Cold War, it was purely America trying to oust Russia, or Russia trying to oust. That's what determines whether a coup is bad or a coup is good. It depends on interest. Now, after post-World War, we give the toga of the big umbrella is defense of democracy. But under that defense of democracy, there is the individual national interest of each country. America has a lot of military presence, bases in Africa, also in Niger. They see that as of now, as their own terrain, they have the upper hand over Russia, probably even China. Now, if there's a change of regime and these people are seen to be romancing Russians, that is the thing that most concerns United States of America. I am underlining this, with due respect, I don't have solution to what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will do, but as ECOWAS chairman and also as but I'm saying sometimes it may be ECOWAS interest may not align completely with Nigerian interest. But here is our president. He is the chairman of ECOWAS. He is also the president of Nigeria. So what I am saying is that in this matter, whether it is France, whether it is America, whether it is ECOWAS as a region or individual members of the country, everybody has his interest. But the big banner is defense of democracy and to ensure that Mohammed. But under that, there are sub-themes, there are sub-plots. The American lady, she has said what they are. Of course, that is their interest. Yes.
All right. Let me bring in
Usman.
It
is not a crime
Mr.
for every
Usman
country
has
to have
called
its
in
own
from
interest.
Abuja. Mr. Usman, good morning. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I quite agree with Group Captain Sadiq on what he has been analyzing. So what we are saying is this: why was the same thing not done to Mali, Burkina Faso, and their school? So the ECOWAS need to have that credibility and act justly. Why are they so much interested in Niger? Why Niger? There was a coup in Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea. Why Mali? Why Niger? And also I'm calling the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The strength, the energy, the concern is showing on this Niger coup. He should do same to predicament here at home. Banditry, Boko Haram, unemployment, kidnapping, poverty, unemployment. He should not be distracted. He has a lot to contend with at home. That's my contribution. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you very much. But again, we make the point that it's not so much Bola Ahmed Tinubu as ECOWAS. But Group Captain, coming over to you, look at Mr. Usman's statement.
Yes. Again, thank you for coming to the support of our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Me too, I will add my voice and say, please, in discussing this matter, but like I said, it is our choice of words. It is always good to emphasize it's not about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu or Nigeria versus, but ECOWAS. Having said that, unfortunately, countries are not the same. Even though in international we say all countries are the same, but we know that is just diplomatic language. Countries are not the same in terms of influence. Even the relationship between country A and country B may not be the same relationship between country A and country C. The general importance or the strategic importance of one country, people are all unanimous that in the fight against terrorism, Niger is one of the most strategic places by its geopolitical position in the African region as a transit country. So Niger has that. And again, everything is a matter of context and timing. When Mali happened, Nigeria was not chairing the ECOWAS, if I understand. So, and again, you have to look at what is feasible and what is not feasible. Sometimes some countries, you intervene even on how, that country standing is. Bola Ahmed Tinubu was not the chairman of ECOWAS. And again, I have pointed this out somewhere. When you look at the West African sub-region, even between, I don't want to say the relationship between Nigeria and the relationship between Nigeria and Niger and Nigeria and Mali, certainly they are not the same. I will digress and give another example. When the coup happened in Gambia, or rather when President Biahajame refused to go, people forget one thing. Some few years back, there was a collaboration between Senegal and Gambia. They wanted to become one country, Senegambia. What does that show you? There is a big, a relationship historically, between Senegal and Gambia. They have even attempted to become one country. When Yahya refused to move, even though Nigeria played a very big role, the first country to deploy troops to Gambia was Senegal. Why?
Yeah.
Because the relationship between Senegal and Gambia is very close. So no matter, Nigeria, has, apart from heading the ECOWAS at this current time, there are a lot of interest. Probably, I have said, out of all the relationships between Nigeria and African countries, I think the strongest ties, historical, cultural, trade-wise, commerce, I think there is no equal between Nigeria and Niger out of all the other 14 African countries.
Okay.
Again, national interest is there. The decision to intervene or not intervene, again, with due respect, you see, the field of international relations is not something of morals. It's not something of responsibility. No, purely national interest.
Well, you're going to need, Group Captain, but you're going to need the support of, for instance, all the member countries of ECOWAS. You're going to need the support of the people. And that speaks to Usman, who called in earlier. That speaks to his comment about we would have liked to have seen this kind of verve in relation to our problems as well. So whether it is Nigeria, whether it is any other member of ECOWAS, surely the opinions of their people might matter. After all, presidents, are ruling on behalf of their people. Is that an important point?
And I think I am not a diplomat per se myself, but I think we have high-quality diplomats in our Ministry of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and there is this institution in Lagos of International Affairs. As far back as 1980s, I think, or 90s, a realization was made that Nigeria sometimes intervenes in international things without actually factoring in the domestic factor. What is there for Nigeria? How does it affect the internal mechanism of Nigeria? Again, these are some of the issues. Apart from ECOWAS interest or international committee's interest of restoring democracy, Nigeria should also look at what are the internal dynamics. What do I mean internal dynamics? Many groups and subgroups are coming now to show what binds us between Niger and Nigeria. A lot of factors, which I don't want to enumerate here. So many of them, we cannot deny that. So in deciding Nigeria as a country, not as chair of African Union, also the domestic environment plays into it. For example, if the domestic environment, I don't want to pass a decision here, if the generality of Nigerians feel that the so-called, which we have not arrived at, the so-called intention to deploy troops, the generality of Nigerians do not want it. History has shown that no country should deploy where the majority, whether they are right or wrong. The majority.
Okay, one moment, sir. I don't know if I still have Mr. Kinami on the line. He called in. Good morning, sir. Are you still there? I think you just heard me losing that particular call.